Right, hello everyone. Well, later on we're going to go into VR, but as you might have gathered, the fact you can see my feet and virtually nothing else, we're in the VSKYLABS Auto Gyro, something I've wanted to try for ages and ages in virtual reality. I thought the idea of flying over London in something that looks like a Sainsbury's shopping cart with rotors on the top would be the ultimate sort of VR experience. So I have done some VR video for later on, but I thought I'd just show you what it looks like on the flat screen and what you've got. It's very limited obviously on its dashboard. It's got a big thing marked brakes which holds the brakes on. It's got a clutch here which speeds up the rotors, which means you can do shorter takeoffs. So an auto gyro doesn't have an engine that rotates the blade, it relies on the forward motion of the auto gyro through the air to spin the blades up. But to reduce the takeoff distance, you can pre-spin them up using the engine and then virtually do very short hops when you take off. Now, I've flown this a few times now and I haven't actually done much of that. It's been a really interesting thing to fly around, and as you'll see later on in VR, was everything that I thought it would be. So I'm really glad I did go back and sort of have a look at this. And as usual, it's got experimental marked on it, which a lot of the VSKYLABS stuff does. It really does think out the box, or as a company they think out the box on doing unusual things. You know, even as this blade's going around over the top, it's got a great dip to it that comes in and then goes up. Shadow details fantastic. Dodgy trainers, but can't have everything. And the other really wonderful thing about this auto gyro, if I can have a look, is if we look down, that is the instruction book. So it's pretty much brakes on, get the engine spinning up to 1200 RPM. Once it's done that, take the brakes off, hit full power, and it should take off at 35 knots. And if you're coming into land, 35 knots is a good normal speed, but you can actually drop it down to 17 knots, which I would imagine is a very fluttery landing. But graphics are good, looks good. Pull back a little bit. So let's give it a go. So I've got this set up on my hot S now, so I can switch the clutch on, and you'll see now the blades are starting to increase. I did have a little bit in the virtual reality mode where the brakes wasn't actually holding it dead still, and I think there might be one, how can I put it, hard brakes, soft brakes, something I've got to look into. If we give it a little bit more throttle, get the RPM up a little bit. And in fact I wouldn't mind doing a long takeoff anyway, so we're going to take the clutch off, and we'll take the brake off, and we'll just push the throttle forward. My foot pedals are a little bit touchy at the moment. Try and keep it off the grass. There we go, we should easily get up there at that speed, pull the engine back, because we did over rev it a bit. And there we are, we're airborne. As simple as that. Now as I say, I've mainly done this in VR mode, so I'll be switching over to that in a moment. I'm not sure what the sound quality will be like, but a really interesting thing to fly around and a great deal of fun. So while we're in this mode, let's give it a little bit more engine power. Nose up. Rudder turn, cut the engine right back. Put the power back on, don't want to stall it. And there we are, back on the runway approach. Cutting engine power back. First time I've done this, so let's see if we can do a touch and go. Oh, we're down, full power, get it up again. Oh, only just before the grass, but great fun, as I was saying earlier. What an interesting thing to fly. They haven't added the walkway over the top of the O2 yet by the look of it, but that'll probably happen as well one day. So it's just so sedate. Obviously I've got no wind on, it's a sunny afternoon. Just really wanted to see how it flies, what it goes like. I think it's something when you've got the hang of it, you could really have some fun with, because the autogyros generally have a very, very short takeoff area required. And they can actually bank and turn quite quickly. Well, just think back to the James Bond film Little Nelly and things like that. But certainly if you were doing, you know, sort of aerial photography or something like that, this would be an ideal way of travelling around. Now, as usual, you know, we're in London, there's the Thames, so got to be Tower Bridge coming up soon. Looks like a reasonable, maybe a bit lower. Oh wow, how lucky was that? They probably knew I was coming. You do see it occasionally open and close, and I've never known anything that actually triggers it. And you wouldn't have thought a small autogyro coming through would have triggered it. Take it between these two. Head towards the Houses of Parliament. Big Ben. See if we can get a bit of height, get a bit closer, bit of throttle, lift the nose up a bit. I don't know if you saw that, but I had a big stutter then in the headset. Let's do it. Yeah, getting a few stutters there. I'm running the Oculus debug thing at 1.5, synchronous space warp. It's turned off, it tends to play havoc with my system. I know they've done a recent update to do with that, but I'm not sure if it works with X-Plane yet. I haven't tried that. You can see over there Nelson's column. We'll have a quick go. go and have a quick look out with Nelson. Over the station. Let's drop it down a bit. So I know he said on that sheet down there 17 knots is the slowest, but even at the moment, a bit of a balancing act. Engine up there, seems to be sinking a bit now. The New York scenery, which I've always thought was spectacular as well, I can't remember if it's by Mr. X or not, or certainly a wonderful piece of work. But I think this is, you know, if I was to spend the time and get the lighting right, get some clouds in, I think you could make this look equally as good. And the textures, they're getting the windows in, they're getting the air conditioning units on the top of the roofs. Obviously Tower London over there, let's just have a quick look. Bit of throttle. And again, not being a very patient person, you know, we want everything now, and these people are doing updates, they're working on it, well, I suppose continuously, and as they're working on other things, if they find that it can be added into the London skyline to make it look better, different buildings. Let's take the tight route through. Canary Wharf. And some nice gardens, the landscaping is getting good. Now I know I said about taking the tight route through here. All of a sudden it looks a little bit tighter than I imagined. Let's go for it. Bit of a bank there. There's no cluttering of blades on the way through, so that was good. Now, as usual, because I've got the Oculus on, if it's been jumping around a lot, you know, I do apologise. It's all to do with this dystonia and this tremor thing I've got, and the Oculus shows it up quite drastically sometimes, so I'm hoping it hasn't been too jerky to fly. I've recently built myself a V-shaped headrest so that I can push my head back when using the Oculus, just to help sort of take some of the load off the shoulders, and hopefully that might show itself to be a bit of a smoother flight than some of the first VR ones that I was doing. So we're approaching. It says we can go as low as 17 knots. I don't think we're going to do that, but we're certainly going to cut the engine back. About 30 there. Just keep it in that green bit. I'm sure once I've done a few more landings and takeoffs, I'll be able to just flutter it in, as it were. As you know, one of my favourite things is doing auto rotations, and I suppose, you know, this is the ultimate version of that in some respect. Right, so let's start cutting the engine back a little bit more. Foot pedals, get it squared up. Just want to get a nice, simple rate of descent. I'm not worried about being too slow or too fast. I'll just let it take its course. Bearing in mind, see the shadow there, that looks great. Bearing in mind, of course, how close your bum is to the floor in one of these things. More throttle, nose up. Take the throttle off. Very smooth landing. Try and remember which button I use for the brake. Actually, let's just roll with it there. Then press the brake. There she goes, that's on. Right, well it only leaves me to say as usual, I'll take the brake off and let it roll. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. VSKYLABS again doing something, even though this is quite an old thing that they did, just something more unusual. And if you want to try something a little bit out the box and you have a great place you like flying around in, for the money, I think this is something like $19. It's absolute brilliant fun. It's very enjoyable. It's very well done. It adds another dimension to the hobby because I've certainly, apart from gliding, I suppose it's a bit like gliding. But I'm going to mess around with this because I think it's also capable of doing an awful lot more than what we've just done. I think this could do some very good sort of close-up touch and goes, tight bank turns and so on. So it only leaves me to say thank you again. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'm on 93, I'm nearly at 100. So we set the thing at 50 ages ago when my boy took the mick out of me for getting involved in this, and now we're at 100. I know it's silly numbers, but it doesn't mean much, but I do appreciate everyone that takes the time to watch it and listen to me babble on. So thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a good week.